Hi, I'm Jason. This is Chicago Mastering Service. If you are prepared to learn some of the background of like quality control for, CD parts and whatnot, and you just have a pretty good set of ears, you can do a decent job at mastering. I mean, the main barrier to entry, I think, is just that it's pretty expensive to build a proper facility, or at least what we think of as a proper facility. Basically, we started with our main processors that we had to work with were this equalizer and this compressor limiter, because after just talking to a lot of people and seeing what people used and calling our own experience in other mastering studios, we decided that these were two pieces of gear that could probably accomplish a lot.
And what are they?
They are this Milennia NSEQ-2, which is a stereo equalizer. It's a 4-band equalizer, and then this Crane Song STC-8, which is a compressor limiter. They just seemed like they weren't like a one-trick pony. They were just good, like, basic tools that did a very sort of unobtrusive job of equalizing and compressing material. So that was our first couple things we got. And, so things have changed, and then after a while you're like, I wish I had an EQ that could really like make things crazy for this one record or whatever, And we had some, plug-in digital tools, limiters and equalizers as well. But we actually have this band lead limiter, which isn't really meant for mastering, and we don't really use it much. We used it every once in a while for something that was just kind of needed a crazier treatment, but it's not, now it's just kind of taking up space. But Bob just had that, so it was like, I may as well throw it in here. Maybe it'll come in handy. But the one thing we did about a year ago was bought this old transfer console, a Neumann transfer console, which was basically from the era that went with our lathe, and it had these equalizers in it. So we've taken these out, and we had our same friend Shay build us a power supply, just a high quality power supply for them. These are old. These have these old Neumann discrete op amps in them, and they're just sort of old blunt instrument EQs. Like, they have only 2 dB steps per click here, and they just have a few frequencies. They have a sweep, they have selectable mid frequency, fixed high and low, and then they have these 2 high and low pass filter sets here, which are really extreme and wacky. Like, essentially this is a high pass filter which should cut off low frequencies, but it has a really giant overshoot at the point that it's set for, so a lot of times when you put it in, it actually tremendously boosts bass frequencies. So this was kind of our thing where it's like, now we have a crazy EQ that really does some wacky things to stuff, and then to the point where actually sometimes I just run things through this with all the controls set to 0, because it just sort of adds a sort of a grittier character to something. Lately I've been using it more at 0, just to sort of be like a little, I don't know, it's almost like
the finesse box.
It's like a filter, like that you would use for a camera or something, where it just sort of like adds some kind of ye oldie appearance to things or something. And then we just got our next batch of devices, which is this Longevin, it's Manly essentially. They have a device called the Massive Passive that's a big equalizer that a lot of engineers use in mastering settings. But they just came out with this, which is just a little solid state rather than tube electronic version of the same sort of filters, and it's just a 2-band stereo filter set. And that's really nice. And then we also just got this stereo de-esser, which is made by Empirical Labs, who are these people who make the Distressor, which is a pretty well-known compressor.
Yeah.
And it's called the de-esser, after the guy Dave Durr, who owns this company. But this is great. We've been really wanting a nice analog de-esser, particularly myself, because that's one of the main problems too with mixes that people bring in, is uncontrolled sibilance that's just really extreme. And that is a particular problem for vinyl cutting, but I think it's generally just a problem sonically for a lot of mixes.
Right.
So we just got all this stuff in like a week ago, and we've just been having like a Christmas type vibe here with our new toys. But there's always gear that you will continue to want. But at this point, really, with the addition of these things, I'm finally starting to feel like I've got a choice that's probably appropriate for most situations. You get like a couple of real good building blocks, and then you get a couple of wacky things, or things that for more specific esoteric situations, and you're in pretty good shape.